So I asked you guys a couple days ago about the ideal protein. So I want to give you a little backstory. I've been working with a lady for about 2 years, and she's mid 50s, slightly overweight, and has been a lot smaller, but she can't seem to lose weight no matter what. And part of that, I think, is diet, but she's been on this ideal protein since I've met her, and that's like 1,000 calories at most a day. So combine that with random cheating with like sweets and big meals, like off and on, off and on. Recently, she came to me and she's like, okay, they told me not to exercise while I'm doing
Who's
keto,
they?
or while I'm doing this low calorie diet. And I thought, okay, that makes sense because low calories, you're just more prone to get injured. So we'll keep it easy. But then all of a sudden they told her, okay, so you should exercise, but you shouldn't do it to get your heart rate up. So you shouldn't be doing like high cardio or hard hit. And
And
I've
was
never heard
this a
anything
doctor?
like
Sorry, who was telling them this?
it.
Wasn't their
Today,
neighbor or something?
so the guy is technically a doctor, but he's the guy who started up Ideal Protein. And
Oh, so
Yeah.
no idea.
just to clarify, so it's 1,000 calories of this supplement, and is it mostly protein, or is it just called Ideal Protein?
It's high protein, really low on carbs. So they try to put you in keto, and I'm fairly sure she's in keto. She doesn't really eat a lot of carbohydrates, but she's been doing it for so long, and I've measured her multiple times, and she goes down in size slightly, like body fat goes down, circumference goes down slightly, but her weight just hasn't changed. And if you took a picture of her then and you took a picture of her now, it's not a huge difference. So I'm a little, I've never had issues helping somebody lose weight, but I'm also not doing her diet either. So this is something different. So just wondering if you guys have any ideas about like a low calorie diet, 1,200 calories or less, and then like what kind of exercise you should or shouldn't do. If you know any of like the biomechanics or the down to the cellular level, what happens?
Yeah, that's, I mean, I don't know that I would touch that with a 10-foot pole, but like, it sounds to me like the client's issues have everything to do with decision making around eating.
Mhm.
Right. Like I do a 15-week thing with clients to help them to lose weight, and 14 of the 15 weeks is around decision making when it's mealtime. And
Mhm.
1 week is how to count calories. Right. So my experience has been so far that the breakdown between the two, the vast majority of it is, can you make good decisions when you're presented with temptation, or when you're hungry, or when you're emotional, or when you're lonely, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And then when that starts to get more under control and you're making good decisions, then, I said this last week and I hope it didn't come across too strong, but I like the themed diets. How about that? I don't want to say gimmick diets because they definitely work, but a themed diet like keto or intermittent fasting or paleo or whatever becomes less necessary, because you can eat basically, reasonably healthy food as long as the majority of it is a whole food, as long as you're making good decisions.
Yeah, definitely a good point. She's not great with food. There's some like childhood trauma from that. I won't go into it, but sort of a perfectionist too. So if there's any sort of like little tiny failure, then it's done for a few days, and then you get the guilt, and then you go back to it week by week. But I've never heard that before. Like a low calorie diet not being able to do a high intensity cardio or hit.
No, well, it sounds like the person is just covering their bases, right? I mean, I don't know how integrated they are into each other's lives, if it's just like the supplement guy, but it sounds like the sort of thing where actually he's just because it wouldn't benefit him for her to be working really hard. So he's just thinking, well, if she even faints once, then it's not worth it for me. So maybe he's just selfishly taking the risk out of it for himself, if I've understood this correctly, because it seems weird to be in such a like, I've never heard of somebody, well, I have heard of it, but I don't recommend having such a deficit that you can't exercise hard. That seems ridiculous.
So this is okay. So you just reminded me when you said the low calorie, because I think I'm going to switch my certification over to NASM, and they have some questions in there about the very low calorie diets. And so this is like clinically supervised 800-ish calories per day, which is often used for people that are obese or severely obese and people that are managing diabetes. But this is like quite a hands-on diet from my very low understanding. You don't just randomly prescribe somebody to like, well, they say here 800, but it can be 800, 1200. That's all in the very low calorie range. And then there's very much lots of issues with regards to exercise when you're down that low.
Yeah, I know a handful of people who've gone through that medically supervised very low. The acronym is like VCLD, like very low calorie diet. And yeah, just like Adrian said, it's like 800 calories a day. You go into this clinic like once a week to get weighed. They do blood work regularly. Like they're checking your hormones. Like they're like, yeah, it's very supervised. And yeah, of all of those people who've been on those low diets, I've never heard of them saying that they can't exercise. Most of them don't, because they don't have the energy to. I mean, when you're eating that little, like, I mean, maybe a walk, but anything more than a walk, I mean, you're not going to be able to sustain it for more than a few minutes. I mean, your body's like, going through a lot. But yeah, no, Jacob, it sounds like, what you shared, that this person may have some trauma and a lot of emotional issues. That, it sounds like they're not actually only eating 1,000 calories a day, clearly, because the people, I mean, I hate to call them a liar, but I mean, that's, and also this weird supplement. I'm gonna have to Google that. That's a new one I haven't heard of.
Yeah, so can we clarify? They're saying they're not losing any weight, but they're also saying they're having, is that a total of 1,200 calories, or is that plus the 1,000 of this supplement?
No, it's between 800 and 1,200. So anywhere within that range.
A total?
Total in a day. Yep.
If they were actually eating that and sticking to it, the weight would be melting off of them.
Yeah.
Like that's just, I mean, that's clinically not possible. So they must be, well, yeah, you're saying that they're falling off the wagon, then so it sounds like they're going through like a binge and restrict cycle, where maybe they have 1 or 2 good days, then 2 or 3 days where they maybe have a 2,000 or 3,000 calorie day, and then back to 1,000 calories, and that, so it's weekly calories. They're still either maintaining or in a surplus, right?
So I recently had a sit down with her, and I said, okay, if you want to do this, then do it right. And then I'll listen to you. We'll only do like kind of light strength, more stability, mobility, stretching, light cardio. But if you fall off, if you don't keep up with your strict calorie deficit, then I'm done with you. And so we'll see. To be determined.
How did she respond to that?
I mean, we're close friends. It's been over 2 years since I've been training her, so.
So the tough love. Interesting.
Yeah, our families have get-togethers, so I'm not too worried about it.
Cool.
I mean, are they currently seeing like a mental health provider now?
So no, I don't think it's really that serious. It's more of just kind of a woe is me sometimes. And it's like, I want this, but then I'm like, oh, I'm really just happy doing this. And then it's like, oh, I really want this. And so it's kind of back and forth. It's kind of just like I want to try something new. Oh, okay, I want this, like back and forth.
But they're determined enough to be doing the 1,000 calories a day, which, sorry that I keep needing clarifying. Well, to be saying, fair enough. So how much of that is the supplement? Or is it all they're only eating the supplement?
Yep.
They're only eating the supplement. So it's like a Huel type deal.
It's like $700 a month.
Sounds
Should be
like
more
Soylent.
calories for that.
Oh my God.
You guys were in the wrong business. Oh my God. Total topic change. Okay, we're starting a supplement company. Somebody draft up, it's an international supplement company. Super easy. We just charge people $700 a month and tell them.
Olive oil, protein powder, sorted.
Done. Yeah.
That's like my diet.
So Jake, in terms of the mental health thing, I think that I think mental health and getting help in that regard has a lot of negative connotations to it. And so if you can convince the person that optimization in that regard might make them more effective, right? Because there's mental health in order to be able to successfully wake up in the morning, successfully go to your job, and successfully come home and have a conversation with your loved ones, and then go to sleep at a reasonable hour. But that is not a life that I would consider worth living, right? You can be relatively functional, but be blocked in a couple of ways that where some mental health work with folks that are there to help you, you can remove those blockers and hopefully lead a better life, right? So it's like personal training, right? You wouldn't have somebody, come into the gym for personal training and say, okay, I can squat with a barbell with 25% of my body weight. I can deadlift. I can do one body weight pull up, and I can do 10 push-ups. And you look at them and go, I'm not training you. You're not in a cripplingly bad state. Get out of here. I'm not giving you personal training. And so that mental health stuff can be sort of in the same thing, where the spectrum is way more on like how to improve the quality of your life.
Yeah, you don't have to be a train wreck for it to be super valuable.
Exactly. And so, maybe that person can get their head, and that's like I said, 14 of the 15 weeks for this thing that I do for healthy eating. And I call it conscious competence, right? Making consciously competent decisions at mealtime. It's all about just like what you're thinking about in that moment and how you engage with the decision-making process. So that's my thinking. I'm thinking don't give up, but maybe different tools.
I mean, I'm not sure if this will be useful because frankly, whether she does this or not is going to be more up to her. But I will say I have a client who's been talking to somebody about this recently, and they've said, I mean, we'll see how long, we'll see if this is going to be a long-term thing, but they said it's an absolute game changer for them. But like I was suggesting before, it's going to be a hard sell for you to like. It's almost like one of those things where it's like they need to be the spearheader for it, but maybe suggest it and make it sound like it's not judged. I don't know, but so I still don't fully understand the thing, because so she's determined to use this supplement only, but she's not successfully losing weight
because she's not only using the supplement.
Right. So it's, I guess, it's just a case of her either fibbing or just not understanding food intake and like thinks that mayo doesn't count or something.
Probably the latter.
Yeah.
Just adding a few things that adds up. Binging, definitely. But she has until April 2nd to, that's our date of, if there's no changes, then we go back to my way, and you get off this product and you do exactly what I say for a diet, because she's been doing this for like 2 years. And yeah, right, you found the website. It's there's some interesting things there. There's a list of videos of why their science works, but it's so generalized, and they don't give you like a great they don't show you statistics. And a company that just talks about something and having faith in it, I can't really get behind that. Just feel good. No.
I really like your tact of being like, try this for a little while and then come back to my method. When you first said it, I misheard you, and I thought you were saying like, if it doesn't improve, then you'll go your separate ways entirely. And I was like, oh damn, like that's pretty hardcore.
Well, at this point, to her, they're saying don't exercise, or be really low. So at that point, I would say, okay, then we're going to be done training. You're going to do whatever you need to do until you lose that weight, when you can come back and start doing real workouts with me again.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, if she's been told she can't work out and she's going to follow that and she trusts that. So a quick little tidbit I forgot to mention: I've done a PSMF, which is called a protein sparing modified fast. This was a long time ago now, like maybe 8 years ago, and I did hold on to doing less than 1,000 calories a day for like a while. Obviously, I was basically a kid, or I was like 18 or whatever. So but I would like to say that it is possible. And like, I didn't faint like once, because I mean, humans are designed to be able to survive, like pretty rough conditions. So it is doable, but it can't have been good for like my hormones and stuff like that.
I did 0 calories for 7 days.
When was that?
Mm-hmm.
When? I was like 37 or something. It's not hard.
How come, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I was just trying to see what it'd be like. Just try fasting. So yeah, the 0 calories for 7 days. Workouts are good. Everything's fine. I'm sure it wouldn't have kept being fine, but yeah.
Yeah, if you guys are interested in that, there's actually a fasting subreddit. If you guys are ever interested in that, the fasting subreddit, the fasting culture. So there is allegedly some scientific evidence, so with some teeny tiny bit of evidence that, or teeny tiny bit of benefit to some fasting. But I mean, for most people, like, because it's some people do it for longevity, some people do it for weight loss. But yeah, if you poke around in the fasting subreddit, you can find some pretty interesting success stories. There are some morbidly obese people who have success with water fasts. It's not something that's it's not in our scope of practice whatsoever. I mean, these people would definitely need to be, under the supervision of a doctor, but, fasting, yeah, it's kind of an interesting area that I follow, but not personal. I mean, I just like to read about it.
Yeah. So in terms of, and I guess that's not intermittent fasting. You're talking like actual fast. There's a subreddit for like fasting for like actual like long periods.
Yeah, like I know quite a few, or I know like fitness professionals who like once a week do like a 24-hour fast or something, and they claim, and it's part of their routine. Like they claim that it keeps them sharper mentally. I don't know. They all do it for their own specific reasons, or they do it for longevity. It's something about our telomeres on our genes like get extended for, I don't know. It's very murky science.
Yeah, I think there is some pretty good science behind it. But the problem is, or one of the problems is, isn't it like when you're looking at, so for example, on stuff like hormones, when you're looking at like testosterone, is it not true that any food you eat, like especially like, okay, let's go with sugar, low hanging fruit. If you have sugar, afterwards your testosterone is lower. Like, isn't it that actually in the morning your testosterone is always higher? So it's like you can easily prove that a food lowers testosterone, because I'm pretty sure like all foods lower testosterone in terms of like the acute effects. So it's really dicey in terms of proving like what's happening. Because you prove it's lowering your testosterone's higher like in the morning because you're still fasting, but can you prove that it's going to have like a net positive effect? No. Or as in they're not the same thing, at least.
I can vouch that I've had my testosterone tested many times, and it's always fasted, always 9+ hours, always in the morning before 9 a.m. Right? Like you're not even supposed to drink water in the morning if you don't have to. I think they just give the sort of blanket instruction of don't ingest anything, go get your blood work done, and then have your breakfast so you don't slip it up. But yeah, so definitely, and that's where they get your free floating, I forget the exact term for it, but they actually get your testosterone levels at your base level there. And then if you ever want to cheat that because you want testosterone replacement therapy, just don't sleep. Like just stay awake the entire time, and then you can cheat the test. And they were like, "Whoa, you have the testosterone of an 80-year-old. We better give you all these fun drugs." But that part's going to be edited out, right?
Jake, is any of this helping? I feel like we sort of gave you a very indecisive response.
No, they're good. I like to hear your opinions because it kind of backs me up on my opinion towards it all. And people should hear this because they're definitely going to come across people who are on these types of diets, and
What about, is your client, is she into social media at all?
I mean, she's in her
No?
50s, so no.
Really? Okay, because I was gonna say, like, recommend a few great, fitness professionals for her to follow. Again, my favorite is Jordan Sayat. I don't know if you've heard of him. I can put his name in the chat. He's great. He's like no BS. He's constantly debunking fitness myths. Like, he's all about like moderation. He's the guy, he ate like a Big Mac every day for 1 month, but he was counting calories, and he accounted the Big Mac into his calories, and he still lost 7 pounds in a month, because he was trying to prove like you can eat McDonald's every day and still lose weight as long as you're in a calorie deficit. Now, I mean, it's not to say he felt great eating McDonald's every day. He's like, don't eat McDonald's every day, but he was trying to prove a point.
Yeah.
And so he's very big on like, I mean, he doesn't like poo-poo on fad diets per se. He's like, listen, if you prefer to eat vegan because that makes you feel better, great. If you prefer to eat keto because that's what makes you feel great, great. But he's like, these aren't necessary. Like, these aren't the only options for you. Like, and this also isn't the only way. So he's very big on like common sense. He's also funny. I don't know, a lot of, and in fact, you know what? I'm going to give you another woman on Instagram. She's also on Facebook. She's in her late 50s, I think, maybe even early 60s. But she just recently came into strength training, and she's a trainer now too. And she actually has a whole book about losing weight and gaining strength, like in that age, in your 50s, basically, as a woman. And she's awesome. Also common sense, no BS fad diets, like,
Yeah, I think that's a good point. If you can find some sources that she relates to, that she'll actually be interested in soaking up, then there's got to be a source that overlaps in the Venn diagram of like not BS but also interesting to her. I think, yeah, being able to find some of that might be good.
The hardest part for her is she did this before and she lost like 60 pounds, but she was skinny fat, like probably 50% or more percent body fat, but lost like 6 inches around her waist, like tons and tons of loss in places. But do you want to be skinny fat, or do you want to be a little bit fat and strong?
Yeah, it just seems unsustainable, right? I mean, not to like throw it back at her, just the fact that she hasn't sustained it.
I think it's like a 3-month program. They don't tell you to do it for lifetime. It's not a maintenance plan.
Right.
It's just like a quick, okay, lose 30 to 60 pounds, whatever, and then go back to what you were doing. But
well, return customers, right?
yeah, a lot of cheaters out there.
Be in 3 months.
That's what they're banking on.
Yeah. Yep.
Tough.
Yeah, I would say unless like her actual physician tells her not to exercise. Yeah, I agree with everybody else. Like, nowhere in my NOSM textbook did it say like, because there was a section on very low calorie diets, and it didn't say anything about not training those individuals, just to get clearance from their medical provider, and basically just like go easy on them.
Yeah, have you seen, Jake, have you seen the part in the advert where it says you shouldn't work out? Because it might be that actually she's misinterpreting it and it says you don't have to work out, which is what a lot of these products would say, right?
Yeah, it's a video, and I've watched the video. I tried to find it. I'm pretty sure you have to be like in the program to be able to view it. So I've asked her to contact her superiors within whatever person that she meets with to give her some sort of the science to give to me. And so she's going to work on that. We'll see if I get anything or if they give her anything. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's so much debate around low calorie diets and even fasting for long periods of time. I don't think it's bad, but as far as like a really strict goal, I think we're so individualized in our own biomechanic structure that it's hard to do a one for all kind of plan. takes a lot of trial and error to figure out what works best for you.
Had somebody with the AstraZeneca vaccine come in. We had to do about like 40% in terms of intensity. The workout was fine. It was actually, they felt better after the workout. They're in their 60s. That's the range right now that's available to get that vaccine here, because we don't have as much supply in Toronto. Then they felt a lot better, and it took like 3 days. Nothing really interesting to report about it, just that it's always super good to have a really wide base of knowledge for what you're doing with a client. I've learned over the years that you have a program for your client that has all of these different variables, and if they walk in and they're like, I just got fired, and my sister has cancer, and I just want to go easy and maybe do some mobility work and take my mind off my day. If all you can do is basically like change the numbers on the plates a little bit, then you're not going to serve that client very well. So having a wide variety, okay, let's do body weight circuit training where every other movement is just mobility based. So having that wider base really helped me when this person came in with the vaccine and they're like, my head is foggy, I can't think straight, I'm not feeling very alert. So we definitely don't want to be working on anything where we're close to your PRs, where you need to really focus. They're tired and just like full body tired. And like, okay, great. So then the intensity, but instead of having heavy lifts, we can do more continuous work at a lower intensity. So yeah, that was something that happened to me over the week, and I think it's worth sharing.
Yeah, having a big arsenal of, sorry, Ali.
Oh, I was just to say, I don't know about you guys, but I'd say on an average week for me, I have at least 2 client sessions where they turn up and it's like something went wrong and I haven't slept at all. I've barely slept a wink. And that's when I would pull out those kind of sessions as well. So I don't think that it's necessary just for like an emergency or like a more severe situation like a vaccine reaction. But actually, I think it's very useful dialing down the intensity for those clients rather than risk sort of piling on an intense deadlift session on someone who's already knackered and then having them either injure themselves or just hate it and then be less motivated in the future.
Yeah, I'm a bit guilty of not doing this. So I'm a bit guilty of, for example, like what Adrian was saying, just bring the intensity down. But I think, it'd be super valuable to have more of like a really, really slick like game plan for all the eventualities, all the scenarios.
No, that's great. If there's a way for you guys to share, maybe do like a sample workout that, that you've done in the past for somebody who comes in like that, I would love to see what that looks like for you guys. And also, I was able to get the Moderna vaccine on Tuesday. That's the Dolly Parton vaccine.
Oh, nice.
That's the one Dolly Parton gave $1 million for.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just the first dose, and I planned to work out that day because I wanted to see how my body would feel. The first dose, I felt fine. Like I did a normal lifting session. I even did cardio. So if you guys get the chance and you guys get one of the 2 doses, your first day, you should be fine.
Yeah. I suppose it would be a lot to do with age and how like vulnerable you are and stuff, wouldn't it? And probably a bunch of random things. I guess not strictly random, but what would seem to be random variables as well.
From the anecdotal sort of evidence of the people I know, there doesn't seem to be any clear distinction on age or sex boundaries or health. It just seems to be actually one thing is that people who tend to react in the past. They say, oh yeah, I always react to vaccines. I think there's some sort of histological thing that we're not sort of super aware about.
Right, Ollie. Yeah, I've heard the same thing. Like my friends I have a lot of friends who are nurses and doctors who had theirs a couple months ago. And the ones that had bad reactions said the same thing, like, oh, every year when I get the flu shot, I feel terrible for 48 hours, and the people who said, oh, I felt fine, they say, oh yeah, I get the flu shot, I feel nothing, and I'm lucky, I get the flu shot, I feel nothing, I get pertussis vaccine or something, so that's probably it. But But yeah, just a heads up, if you guys can get your hands on Moderna. I don't know what's going around in the UK right now. Which vaccines?
What is it? It's
Pfizer
like
and AstraZeneca.
yeah. I think there's a whole. What did you say? AstraZeneca, and which was the other one you said, Ali?
And Pfizer's the other one.
Yeah.
My parents had one each.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So there's yeah. I think it's mainly those two, and then I think maybe Moderna's around or some other one. Anyway, we got a whole bunch here. Yeah. Have you been done, Ali?
No, not yet.
Same.
No, both my parents have had their first dose, so that's a relief at least. I don't consider myself sort of in any risk categories. I'm not super worried about when I get mine.
We have plenty here in Indiana if you guys can make your way over here.
No, I think I would literally get arrested.
Yeah.
Probably not, though. Indiana doesn't care.
No, I'd get arrested before leaving the border here.
Oh,
like,
okay.
yeah,
You get arrested
it's illegal for us to go anywhere now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they've got the variant. You got the variant. You're not allowed in our country.
It's okay.
No, it's really.
It's actually I'm not allowed in Canada. Remember?
Yes, we got to keep the border
actually,
closed.
Yeah, my husband and I learned that out the hard way. We had to go to Michigan for something, to Detroit, and there was my husband's Filipino, so there's a really nice Filipino restaurant right across the border in Windsor, Canada. And it was like right across if you guys don't know, Detroit, Michigan is like right next to Canada. It's like just a little bridge and then you're in Canada. And my husband's like, oh yeah, let's just hop over there, there's this great Filipino restaurant. And I was like,
Ooh.
I don't think they'll let us across the border. And he's like, what? No, they don't.
Nope.
They're Canada. They're nice. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure like nobody wants Americans right now. And I looked it up and it's like, we're not allowed. So I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question for you guys. Best way to strengthen let's say rhomboids, but let me say upper back musculature that will help with posture in theory.
Face pulls. Just if I'm thinking upper back posture, face pulls is my absolute go-to. I think you can't do enough.
And how do you grip? Do you go to the front double bicep? Like which way with the wrist?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. Start with a row and then bring the hands back to ensure external rotation of the shoulder there. Clear the AC joint. That seems to work really well. No one ever has pain doing that. I've never had pain doing it that way.
Yeah, so big fan of face pulls. I find for me, I mean, I've stopped doing them in the last few months, but for me, they would be really good for the rear delt. And I'd be like super mind muscle connectioning the rear delt. And I think I would be isolating it really well, like more than if you didn't do that. But yeah, no, for me, they were never really rhomboidy. But I think that's because I had a different focus. So I haven't done them in a while.
I do so modified because I don't have a cable machine in my studio. I'll do a broomstick, then a band in the center, sort of lined up with the face, and set up for an overhead press position, get the elbows underneath. Now the band is going forwards, so all of the resistance is forwards. It's not overhead. So when you do the overhead press with the broomstick, reaching slightly behind, all of the resistance is again pulling forward. So you get similar to a face pull type of effect, but it's through the range. So instead of this way or this way, you're going up and you're getting the range, and it seems to hit a lot of that area as an alternative if you don't have a cable system.
Yeah, we did those on that back session that we did, and you showed me them. They were good. I haven't done them since though.
Yeah, I did. I think I did show you them. And then if they have absolutely nothing on the floor, one that I've been doing that's been like really, really challenging people. If you're familiar with Sphinx pose, it's sort of a very, very simple cobra or very, very simple up-facing dog. So you imagine you're lying on the ground like this, and you tell them, okay, put your elbows under your shoulders, and then like you're watching TV, right? So if you're lying on your tummy in the living room watching TV, that's the beginning position. And then engage your back and actually try to get them to reach forward without losing their shoulder height, which is incredibly difficult, and does, again, another option for folks that don't have equipment. And in that one, you really get a lot of muscle activation, and it's, completely equipment free.
So are your forearms still on the floor and you're sliding them forwards?
No, you're trying. Yeah. So like, let's just imagine that let's imagine that my upper arm is, let's say, 11 inches. Okay, so my shoulders are 11 inches off the ground, but I'm clearly supported by 2 arms, so that's not particularly challenging. And then by engaging all of the muscles in my back, squeezing my glutes super duper hard, I'm trying to reach forward into this sort of superhuman or Superman type position and see if my shoulders are still 11 inches off the ground. I've never gotten anywhere near to keeping them that high, but the intention and the muscle activation when you try to do that is really, really intense. And then if you have folks where that's actually not a difficult move and they're doing really well, then you can go into snow angels. So you're here, right? You're lying on your tummy, back is arched, extend. Now your shoulders are still off the ground. Reach behind, touch your fingertips behind your lower back, and then bring them back without any forward, without the collapse of those muscles. And that makes it, that's super, super challenging. And again, equipment free. I'm all about the improv because I have a lot of Zoom sessions and I have a lot of like, we're in the park, we don't have any equipment.
Yeah. So prone snow angels, that's one of the ones in my bodyweight class. That's good. Love that one.
You ever do a side laying like around the world?
Like lying on your side, like completely on your side?
So
Or like
lay on your side and you bring your top leg up into like a high knee position, and you put some sort of like a foam roll or something underneath it to keep your lower spine straight, and then you rotate the upper body, thoracic spine across, or you go up and around, trying to keep the back of your hand on the ground throughout the motion.
Yeah.
I found that one way to help cue that one, Jake, is that bottom arm supports the top knee. And that makes sure that they bring the knee up high enough. Because like, again, this is sort of Zoom coaching is very, very challenging to make sure position is correct. So I tell them, okay, lay on the ground in the fetal position, because they probably don't have a foam roller to put underneath their top knee. And then you'll know that their legs are up high enough if their bottom arm can hold their top knee in position. And then, yeah, you're doing all of that work 100%. That's a great one. I almost always do that one as a warm up, keep it moving.
Yeah, me too. So your broomstick one, right, the behind the head, a year ago I wouldn't have been able to do that, and I didn't know why. It was just a lot of pressure on my shoulders, probably upper trap tightness. So what's a way that you would help somebody get into that position if they weren't able to bring the broomstick behind their head?
I keep it in front of their head. So I wouldn't do that, but so I would test for external rotation in sort of this front position. So there's external rotate. Boy, there's limited field of view, right? External rotation and punch out. Now that was terrible form because I'm trying to have my arm in the camera angle. It would be down here. So external rotation and punch out. And then so start them supine, then punch up, then from supine roll onto your side, and then punch down and up, rotate there, see how that's going. Then from there, trying to think of my notes. There's another one that I'm blanking on, and I'll look up for you. But again, it's a lot of external rotation work at different angles to see if we can figure out what's going on and if we can strengthen that.
Were you the one that had an Instagram story where you were doing the row rotation press with a kettlebell?
I don't know if I put that up, but maybe.
Okay, because that's an awesome one. Definitely.
Yeah, and then corkscrew as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you do, I mean, I don't. It's at the end of the journey where it's happening with a kettlebell. But at the beginning of the journey, what I'll do is I'll get them to do it with a dumbbell, but holding the dumbbell vertically. So I'm holding one of the bells, then there's the handle, then there's another bell, and then at least there's some stability challenge, because if they're just holding the dumbbell handle, it's not enough of a challenge to their stability at the top position. Yeah. But it's easier than bottoms up kettlebell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should do more exercises like that. Even like you're saying, just holding the bottom of the dumbbell, it makes it a balance essentially, or makes it makes you need to constantly calibrate. But also it's not actually top heavy, or like it's because it's bottom and top heavy kind of thing. So the actual center of mass, and it'd be a lot less dangerous as well. Yeah.
Everyone should try a bench press with kettlebell, just to try and keep it bell up.
That I have a video for sure.
Yeah, you do 10 to 15 pounds, and your right hand, your dominant hand, might do it fine, and then you get your left, and it's just bam, bam, wrist slapping the whole time because you can't keep it up.
Yeah,
it's great.
And if you can do seesaws, so you could do vertical seesaws and you could do bench press seesaws, and I love those because you've got to. So I use those when people aren't understanding glute core tightness and then your feet being firmly into the ground when you bench, right? Because if you've got a barbell and the weight is the same on either side, right? You haven't misloaded it, and the bench is flat and it's not broken in any sort of way, then they really, if they want to, they can just be a pancake on the board. So what you can do with the seesaw type motion is it really cues them to be like, wait a second, I actually have to squeeze my glutes, and I actually have to put my feet into the ground so that I don't roll off the bench when I'm doing this seesaw. And then if they can keep that tightness when they go over to the bench, it helps to click. Love that.
Yeah, I use half kneeling single side overhead press for the same thing.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah. So if you can't hold it there, what are some of the wrist, forearm strengtheners that you do to make that easier?
Yeah, because I guess it's not just strength, is it? It's coordination. Because actually, if you can hold it precisely in the middle, because you're zen AF, then it's a lot easier than if you're flailing it all over the place.
Yeah.
But
so you're looking for wrist stabilization, like the wrist strengthening work?
I mean, it's all grip, right? So what do you guys do for grip strengthening, or do you do any grip strengthening?
Farmers carries for most people.
Yeah.
Above that, it would only be for people who have histories of injuries or past surgeries. Snowboarders often like break wrists and stuff. So then I might do dumbbell curls where I have their forearm supported on a bench, wrist just over the end, and then curling or allowing the wrist to stretch out and then curling it back up, or maybe doing that and then extending the fingers out, rolling back up. But for most people, just farmers carries.
So I'm not sure if it would directly translate over, but my ones for grip are Romanian deadlift, and then hanging, like just literally hanging.
Yeah.
And then I actually have a couple of these crusher things, but I've not given them to clients because I don't think it would translate over. Like the ability to like crush something isn't the same as the ability to like hold on to something, as far as I know, or at least doesn't directly translate.
Did I go over it last time? The grip thing? I have a grip block.
At some point, yeah, be interesting to hear about it again. You made your own, right?
Yeah, I made my own. It's just a small piece of 2x4 with a hook on it. Actually, it's I forget the name, but it's not a hook. It's a complete circle, so you can clip into it. But because it's a 2x4, you can do sort of a fingertip grip. You can do a partial grip. You can do 2-finger grip and work through all the different fingers, and just do cable rows at different angles. And that works the grip really, really well. It can really like destroy people's grip. You can also do a kettlebell. Take a kettlebell and turn it upside down so the handle is on the ground, and you grip it from the side, and then you let it fall into one direction, but you don't quite let it hit the ground. Then bring it back to its handle. Then you let it fall to the other side, and don't bring it back. If they can't do that, you get a hammer and hold the hammer at the very end and just control the path of the hammer over and back. And then I really like doing it with a broomstick, but you hold it at the very, very end of the broomstick. And that actually requires quite a bit of stability and strength to do that.
Yeah, it's just so inefficient that it's an amazing like training tool.
Exactly. And then also doing sort of the stretches, right? The top and bottom of the forearm stretches, you might find that they actually have one side that's way tighter and stronger than the other side. And then you have to make some modifications based on that. Because if you have a lot of people that are like mousers and typers and like office folks, then they're very likely to be overdeveloped. My anatomy memory is awful. Does anybody remember the bottom side muscles?
Flexors.
Yeah, and then on the top they're completely weak. Yeah, and then another way to strengthen those this just came to mind. Another way to strengthen those, if you know how to teach boxing for cardio, is that way. Because the holding the gloves and doing the boxing for cardio, you actually strengthen your forearms a lot, and they don't have to think about it. They're actually thinking about doing something else, which is way more fun. Let's book some more mock sessions because that's like incredibly valuable. Because I'm kind of in a bubble, right?
I could probably, well, I don't know if this would help you or not. I could probably do a mock session in my new gym. It'd have to be like on a Sunday morning. Yeah. But not like early, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm super down for mocks.
And I'd be up for being a guinea pig again.
Yeah.
I'll be up for either. I'll be up for either. That'd be good. I think I'd learn a lot more if it was me doing training somebody else as well.
If someone wants to train me, I will happily be. I'm self-conscious about like trying to train you guys since you guys have a lot more experience than me. I don't want you guys to be in your head being like, God, she's an idiot. What is she?
No, but like we're not gonna fire you, and the feedback we're gonna give you is gonna be like it supercharged my career at the beginning, the ability to like do little mini trainings with more experienced trainers. It's really supercharged me at the beginning. It gave me a lot of confidence. And then also that if you're the type of person that can get a list of things you did wrong and ways that you can do them better and look at that list and maybe not right away, but maybe the next day, not have an emotional response to it and be like, okay, I will try some of these things, right? Because everybody right away has that sort of like, oh no, I was doing that perfectly. Well, wait a moment, maybe I wasn't. But right, like the next day, look at it and be like, reflect on it a little bit. It's super valuable. It's super good.
Absolutely. No, you're right. No, I love feedback. Like as long as you're not like, well, listen, you were just all terrible. You're in
yeah.
As long as it's not like that, as long as like, and you probably have no friends, and I can see
right.
As long as the feedback doesn't cut that deep, I'm all about constructive feedback.
But then you can feedback the feedbacker. If they're doing that, then they deserve some feedback too. So. It's got to be,
Can you imagine a personal trainer who's like working with somebody, they're squatting and they're just like, wrong. Still wrong.
I actually can imagine that though.
No, that's bad. That's bad.
Exactly. Well, I'm nervous because the classes I'm teaching at my new gym, the owner is going to take some of my classes, and I'm just like,
be super excited to get feedback because I've been a manager. I was a manager for 20 PTs for years. And the only thing, like, if you want a direct line to me loving you as my employee forever, is show improvement. They probably, like, this person is smart. They know that you haven't taught hundreds of classes. Right. And a bar I used to work at as a bouncer would only hire inexperienced bartenders. And the ones that would stick around are the ones that could listen to feedback and that were molded to be the kind of bartender or molded to be the kind of trainer that the facility wants. Right. So she probably loves the fact that you're new. And if you'll listen, you're going to have an amazing time.
Oh, yeah. Totally. Yeah, totally. No, and she knows her stuff. She used to be a bodybuilder. Like she's not now, but no, like she's been doing this a while. So no, and actually, yeah, she wanted someone who was coachable, who wouldn't come in with their own set mindset,
and adaptable, not like calcified.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely.
How do you guys deal with the sort of the non-compliant client? The clients who are always sort of complaining, they're always trying to find reasons to get out of doing a certain exercise or going to a level of intensity. How would your approach be to sort of navigate them through the session and get them to apply themselves and ultimately not complain so much?
Well, did they come to you to get training?
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's a certain absence of logic in that position, but then we're human beings, and emotions quite often get in the way of people making logical decisions.
Right. So they came to you with this thought that, okay, I'm going to get better in some way. So continue to ask them their goals. If they complain, say, remind me what your goal is here. What's your ultimate goal here? And then it puts it on them, just to follow through with it. Otherwise, they'd feel like crap. So they'd be telling you straight up, like, "Hey, I suck." But you guys have any other ideas?
No, yeah, on the lines of communication, like a lot of the time there's secret's a strange word, but I'll go with it. Secret like motivations that they have that they're not telling you, and secret like things they're not actually that motivated about that they're not telling you. So a lot of the time, yeah, it's like creating an environment where they can, I'd say creating an environment where they can speak up about everything. So an open environment, and also structuring scenarios where it's easy for them to talk about it. So that's like, this is kind of a little bit off topic, kind of random, but same thing. In my consultations, I will commonly have on goals. I'll have, for example, not to be too, well, I guess, yeah. Anyway, I'll just continue with it. For female clients, I will have an option next to goals, like example, bigger glutes, right? Because a lot of female clients actually want that, but they won't come at you, especially in the consultation, and say, look, I actually just want a big ass. Like they won't actually come at you like that. So you've got to create one, a scenario where it's okay for them to say that. And two, I mean, this is very specific, but I literally make it obvious that other people have said that. And so they're not going to get judged for saying that.
Nice.
I like that idea. Do you have a like a form that you use then for your clients?
Yeah. So I've got this. I've got a form, and so in that like section, it's just one A4 thing, and I go through with people like that form, and so that's in like the goals section. So I'll have like stock goals that people can like rate how much they care about them. So it'd be like strength, weight, up or down, and then like specific. So one of the final ones will be like specific body parts. And I'll write like e.g. abs, e.g. like glutes, e.g. like big arms, e.g. big chest, so that I try and cover quite a few bases so that it's not them saying, it's not them like revealing their like secret goal. It's like, this is a normal goal. You can be open about this goal. Here's other people who have similar goals. Like this is completely normal to talk about this. So sorry if that's a bit of a tangent. Hopefully that's relevant.
No, that's great. I really like that approach. Yeah.
But it's in, sorry, go for it, Lindsay.
No, go ahead, Freddie.
No, honestly, you go. I'll go after.
Somebody go.
I was just gonna say I agree with everything that Jake and Freddie said. That they're, I feel like, something that was said to me before I even started my personal training journey was that you're partially a trainer, but you're also like a counselor, even though we're not, and counselor in the like mental health counselor. It's something that, like, I think we talk about it last week or 2 weeks ago when people just suddenly cry during sessions. That sometimes just the physical release of an exercise can trigger emotional things, and then they're crying about something that happened that day or last week, or I think that, like, so when you said there was a client who's struggling to be compliant with certain exercises or is hesitant to go forward with a certain intensity, my immediate instinct is to say, like, what emotionally is holding them back? Because I know, I mean, everyone's different, but honestly, like, that's what would stop me. Like, oh, I can't squat more. No, I'm not. That's too scary. I'm not strong enough for that. Or, oh, I don't do that because I'm not emotionally ready for that, or I'm emotionally scared of it, or maybe there's something I'm not telling you, like somebody I know got hurt doing that, or I've heard another trainer on Instagram talking crap about that exercise, so I'm scared to try it. Or I think a lot of it comes down to like just not believing in yourself, and so I would ask some questions. Like, again, a question that I like to ask people a lot is, what's holding you back today? Think about it, like what's holding you back from doing this, and see what they say. I mean, maybe they'll open up, maybe they won't, but maybe that'll get them thinking. you know, why? So what specifically are your clients not being compliant with, if you don't mind me asking?
It's client singular. I do have a particular one in mind, and it's in general. I'd say it's doing things that are hard. She's getting better, and most of the time, we're getting on fine. But there are certain things that are like any kind of heavy squat, any kind of heavy deadlift. So really, the exercises that are the hardest, objectively, it's beyond a certain level, there becomes a real kickback. And it's sort of a bit of a struggle every session. And I think you're absolutely right with the not believing in yourself can be an absolute barrier for people. So I have spent a lot of time trying to remind her things like, well, don't tell me you can't do this because I've seen you do that before. So what else is going on here?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Freddie.
No, that's all right. We keep talking at the same time. Just really quick one. If it was me, for a client like that, I think I've made a couple of assumptions about her as a client. But for a client like that, I would be actually, maybe she doesn't need to do that sort of stuff. I mean, unless she wants to get better at the power lifts, maybe she doesn't have to do that. So maybe you could do those lifts, but do them in kind of a higher reps style. But that depends on her goals. I think I've made a couple of assumptions here. But I would say actually, maybe you don't need to do those exercises, right?
Sure. And I mean, yeah, I'm not going to sort of get into breaking down the whole program and justifications and stuff, but the broad aim was that she's still fairly early on, and it was to bring up strength in the most efficient way in order to facilitate her being able to push herself and unlock other sort of, you know, modalities, training options to her, enable her to go other places.
But it's like we were saying, I think it might have been last week, like adherence is just the most important thing. So it can be really annoying watching somebody who's not gonna, who isn't on board with the most efficient thing. But at the end of the day, the most efficient thing is like the adherence, isn't it? So tough one. Not a useful answer, but
but very true.
Can I share something that my trainer does with me? Because I just finished up my sessions with a trainer. She would load my barbell and not tell me how heavy it was. She would just, I mean, and I knew she was doing it, so it was with my consent, but like she would just be like, okay, we're doing a warm-up set. And she wouldn't tell me how heavy the warm-up set was because she knew I was very numbers focused, and I knew like, okay, when I go to the gym, I warm up with X and then I do X weight. And then my max is like, my max deadlift right now is 135, right? You know, I'm getting there. But, you know, like if she told me, oh, you're going to deadlift 160 today, I'd be like, no, I'm not. Can't do that. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
But there were a couple times she would just be like, okay, she wouldn't tell me. She'd be like, okay, here's the warm-up bar. Do 8 reps of this or 10 reps, whatever. Okay, now we're going to do 7 reps at this. And then, okay, do 5 reps at this. And yeah, like, and then I did it. And then I was like, and she was like, oh, wow, yeah, that was 160. And I'm like, what? You know, it's like,
it was in your head.
Yeah. Like, so not knowing what the weight was helped me, because then, yeah, like if you tell, you know, so like maybe with her consent, maybe, or if you feel like you have a good enough relationship that you can load the barbell without her noticing, or sorry, I'm assuming their gender. I'm sorry.
No, he said that, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it is a woman. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
You're off the hook.
Okay, good. But yeah, I mean, maybe that would help. I mean, if lifting heavier or squatting or deadlifting heavier is a part of their goals. But yeah, I also agree with what Freddie said. Like if they really just don't want to squat or deadlift heavier, then there are other, I mean, it's harder because, you know, squats and deadlifts are they're just such perfect compound movements, you know, then maybe you just have to get creative with, you know, with something else that seems less scary. Because I just know some, especially women, especially can be scared of the squat rack and scared of the barbell, you know, because mostly see like it's big dudes, you know, yeah, you know, they're lifted and they're screaming and, you know, it's intimidating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely go to some lengths to try and demystify that in the very early stages, like just saying, you know, this is just a tool. It doesn't imply anything more than that. All it is a tool to put a certain load on a certain place in your body in a certain direction and sort of break down all the mythos to it. I mean, where we are lucky in that respect, as you saw when we did that practice session with Adrian, that we've got the private facility, you know, outside lockdown, and we've got an outdoor private facility at the moment. So privacy is definitely something we are lucky to have in abundance there. But no, you are absolutely right there. With this client in particular, I think that tactic of yours or that your trainer used, yeah, I've heard that before. And I think that can be very useful with some clients. With her, I actually have to sort of do the opposite from, as discovered from trial and error, in that if I don't sort of make her really abundantly aware that what we're about to do is hard, she'll rush into it. I can say the words, don't rush into this, and she'll rush straight into it. Not go through our sort of setup check, not brace, not get tight, and then go, oh, bloody hell, it was really hard, and my back hurts. Like, yeah, no shit, because you took like 0.2 of a second in the setup from me finishing my sentence to you doing the lift. So it has to be very much more like, okay, this is going to be hard, okay, but we can do this. We know this is like, maybe this is this within the weights that we've done before, so it's nothing new to us. But prepare yourself for that. Brace yourself. Breathe properly. It's almost have to, like, when it's getting to that top working set.
That's amazing. I just started with someone who's like that, so I can relate. That's why I'm laughing.
Like, it's a warm up. It doesn't matter. Let's go.
Yeah, I very much, with all of my people, I'm like, I don't care if you're picking up 2 kilos or 100 kilos. You're doing it properly, mindfully.
Yeah, and that is I even myself, I don't do that. It's easy to talk about doing that. It's hard to do that. Hard to get like that proper good brace going. You have to have I'm a couple tweaks down over the years in my squat. So now my squats are always like on point.
Holly, is your client happy? Is she
Wow, what a question.
Drops mic.
I have no idea how to answer that.
Well, is she because she doesn't want to do hard stuff, right? Is she content with doing easy things?
Kind of, but then I'm not content with her doing easy things because I know it won't get her to a goal, and ultimately she'll end up disappointed about that and potentially blaming me for that. And to be fair, if I've intentionally let her change things to such a degree that it hampers her progress, then she should blame me for that at that point.
Can you tell us her goals? If you remember, if you've got them like
broadly speaking, broadly speaking, it's weight loss and feeling better about herself because she wants to be at a low weight. Yeah. And
this is a very specific question. On these sets that she's averse to, what sort of reps in reserve? Like, as in, I'm sure you don't know exactly, but are we saying she could do, gun to the head, she could do 5 more, or she could do less than that more? Like, is it actually? Would you say it's intense?
Yes, yeah. Relatively for her, yeah, it's absolutely within her capabilities. That's always the most important thing. That it's never pushing it beyond what I know she's capable of. But we would be talking about the sort of 1 to 3 reps in reserve. Maybe 85% 1 rep max plus.
Yeah. So what I would say is like a random other thing is that actually in terms of intensity, there's more and more science coming out that actually you don't. So there used to be this old thing like Arnold Schwarzenegger would be like the last 20% of the effort is where you get all the gains. That's basically not true at all. So I think my instinct would be, as long as people believe this, and some people this takes a real sell to get them to believe it, maybe even you guys, you really don't have to be like pushing your edge to get better at like these things and to get stronger and to like feel better. So I would be, as long as they believed me that it was still extremely near optimal for them to work a lot less hard, I'd be working them a lot less hard.
Interesting take on it. Yeah. I suppose the only thought of mine that I haven't mentioned already that sort of gone into it would be that I wanted to keep her out of what would be seen as sort of bodybuilding rep ranges, because that wasn't her goal.
Yeah. So you've said correctly, like it's, it seems like, or at least, I mean, there's counterpoints to this, but yeah, it's like, okay, we don't want to go too high rep if we're building strength. We want to go lower rep. I mean, I would still be, and I see what you mean. It's like, well, if it's like it needs to be difficult. It needs to be like a difficult set each time. So that is difficult. Like to have a difficult set where you're doing 3 reps and it's a difficult set, that's going to be some pretty heavy weight. So yeah, and it's a tough one. I think just like everybody was saying, communication, and like Jake was saying, like putting the onus on, or like the, not pressure, putting the responsibility with her by asking these questions and getting like answers from her, like that kind of means that you're forcing her to kind of put a stake in the ground, and say like her position on these things, and like, you know, the goals, for example.
Ollie, I asked you if she was happy, not to find out if you're a great trainer, and I'm sure you're fine. I've had multiple people who have trained before who they really don't care what they're doing. They listen to me, they might complain about things, but it's more of a glorified babysitter at that point. And I don't know if that's the situation for you, but there's a lot of people that just enjoy your company, and this is an easy way for them to have a conversation with somebody who's there to listen to them. Tons of people have come to me for that reason, or have stayed with me for that reason. And in the beginning of my career, I thought, no, we're working towards this goal. I want you to get here. And they just don't care. They're content with what they're doing at their level, and they don't necessarily want to work harder. So I don't know. I don't know if that's the case, but
That's a very interesting point. And in a situation like that, you don't want to be shaming them. Like, actually, it's not okay that you're just enjoying seeing me. Actually, like, I'm gonna like pressure you too much to get to the goal. So again, I mean, that's just a really hard balance, isn't it? But I guess communication is kind of the cheat sheet answer for that. And then random little tidbit, motivational interviewing books. I need to read them again, but I've read a bunch of them. And they're pretty awesome. Like there's a couple of like, you know, main paradigm shifts, but like, for example, like not writing people, like, you know, making sure that you ask less, you know, open-ended questions, like I think Lindsay focuses on, loads of stuff like that can be really good, and some of it is counterintuitive. But I mean, yeah, it sounds like a difficult situation.
Well, it's a human situation. I'm sure you all have clients that take more of your attentions than others. Some of them you breeze through and everything's easy, and the other ones you're always tearing your hair out, but that's life, isn't it?
Actually, Ollie, can I ask, is this client, is she very scale focused?
No. Well, she sort of was at the beginning. I managed to talk her into a sort of more broad, holistic view of health, in terms of like, you know, the scale can be misleading, water weight, etc., etc. So I don't think she is as obsessed with it, but still, there's at the same time there's still this focus for her that like she needs to get down to a certain number on the scale eventually, and then she'll be happy.
Right.
And I keep trying to drill into her, like, ultimately, if you feel better, if you move better, if you're healthier, if people compliment you, etc., you know, if all these other things fall in line and the scale number doesn't move, would you be happy with that? Would that scale number still matter if everything else actually was improved? But that's still a work in progress.
It's hard. It's, Ollie, I mean, I hate to pull the woman card, but I mean, to be a woman, I mean, that has just been drilled into our heads since we were children. You know, our weight is one of the most important parts of our health, you know, and it is, and I'm sure that you're patient with her. So I'm not picking on you at all. Like, I'm just saying, like, from a woman's perspective, like, yeah, like being so scale focused, it's so difficult to basically you have to recondition your brain away from that scale focus. You know, I mean, I even struggle with it. Like, and I know better, you know, you would think like, you know, oh, I get it. But like, you know, I've gained like 5 pounds since I started lifting really heavy, you know, and I know my body fat's the same, my body composition's fine, but still just seeing that number on the scale, it's just like it still hurts a little bit that I'm not like the lowest possible weight I can be. So it sounds like your client in her head is probably like, I'm working towards that. I'm trying to get that number as low as possible, you know, and it's, I mean, you can get there, you know, like I'm going to do an Instagram post about it eventually, but the lowest weight I've ever gotten to as an adult was a month after quarantine hit in the pandemic because I wasn't eating. You know, it's like sometimes that low, because I was so stressed, right? And it's like sometimes that lowest weight possible, it's not when you're healthiest and it's not when you're the strongest. And, you know, you're right. And it is, but sometimes like the clients have to figure that out for themselves. You know, it's like sometimes clients, it's like, because I know I'm one of those clients. I'm easy to work with in some aspects, but not in other aspects. But so if she is scale focused, you can maybe explain to her that if it's her body that she's working on and she wants her body to look a certain way, you know, once you lose the weight, and you get to that point where maybe like you're satisfied with the number on the scale, but what you see in the mirror still isn't quite that, you know, your body composition isn't quite exactly, you know, you don't have that toned look that a lot of women say they're going for. That last like 10% of work that you have left on your body after you even lose the weight, you find that last 10% in lifting heavy. If that makes sense. Like that's where it is. And that's, I think, where a lot of women stop themselves. They're like, I've lost the weight, but I'm not as toned as I'm going to be. But maybe it's like, no, you have like pushing yourself to deadlift heavier and squat heavier, even though it seems scary. Like that's where you really get those body changes.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've been kind of, you're on the same track with that, Ali, and you've been saying that to her, but she's just kind of doesn't appreciate the obviously the effort to payoff ratio in her head is still not like a net positive as you'd like. I really would say like just feel free to bring the intensity down, but like and then hopefully just over time she'll get more and more confident with it.
So what would, for something like since we mentioned squats and deadlifts, would you what would you take the rep range up to then to compensate, or would you still do low reps for lower intensity?
I mean, I would be, if it was me, I think the rep range for what builds what has more overlap than we give it credit for. It's like you still get stronger if you do 12 reps, you know, and you still get bigger if you do, you especially still get bigger if you do like, you know, 5 reps or 3 reps. So I would be increasing the reps in reserve. I know you probably don't like the sound of that, but as in, so just bringing the intensity down, literally bringing the intensity down on those exercises. And then you can always bring it back up, because hopefully just more times that they've been exposed to each of the exercises, they'll start, you know, hopefully getting bored of doing 20 kilograms on, you know, on the squat or whatever. They'll start getting bored of that, rather than them fearing it. Make it, I mean, I don't actually mean this, but hopefully you'll see the kind of truth in this joke. You want to be like, maybe for this person, you want it to be boring, not fearful. Like on the boring to scary continuum, maybe you'd rather it be boring, like for a little while, and then they're like, no, come on, let's do 25, and you're just like, no, 20 kilos, like. But basically, just don't. If there's fear going on, which sounds like there's fear, there's aversion. It's going to be hard to get around that. Like if she hasn't already gotten around it. I think get around it by there's a really good term for this, where it's like slow exposure to it in like the easier form. Basically, like to get over a fear, you do like little exposures to get over it. Exposure therapy, I think that's it. Yeah. So maybe do that. But yeah, my thing would be, and it sounds like maybe you don't want to make this sacrifice, which would definitely be fair. I would just bring the intensity way down, because it's a marathon, not a sprint as well. And like people still gain strength, even if there's 5 reps in the tank, they're still gaining strength. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, maybe shifting that focus instead of like max strength into more like endurance and stamina.
Yeah, and we certainly, there's plenty of that in the rest of the program. It's just literally like this core part of the program that I'm really reluctant to let go of, because I'm like, I'm giving you all this other stuff that probably is helping you, so you'll let me give you the stuff that really is helping you.
I feel you, man. It's like for you, and justifiably for you, it's like, come on, this is the meat and potatoes of this right here. So it's different.
Yeah, and she's coming to me off the back of 5 years, I think, doing HIIT classes, which I think were sort of those, without being too disparaging, sort of community social HIIT classes where you're rarely going to break a sweat. It's more about the sort of, it's like, you know, Zumba or something. It's more about just meeting up with people.
Lacking
And-
progressive
and-
overload.
Yeah, and certainly lacking, well, I'd say any sort of intensity, any sort of discomfort. And she came to me because that stuff wasn't working. So I'm extra reluctant to let her try and change the whole program back into that. It's like, no, that makes no sense at all.
Is there maybe you could do some sort of like periodizing, or you could do it. I mean, I think you guys probably know this by now. I love the reps in reserve way, but either of these ways would work. You have like specific program written out. So it's like, if she gets more than 3 reps in reserve on the last week, then you bring the, you bring the weight up. So it's like, I don't know. I guess that's a kind of game that I'm projecting because I would be into. But if she actually does not give 2 shits about the number going up, but maybe just make the progression, make it really loose, like progression criteria. Make it really like the progression criteria. It's like, okay, you only bring the weight up when you've got 5 in the tank, because really, if you like I said, keep the aversion low, keep the fear low, keep the adherence high. That'd be my instinct anyway. But obviously, I'm just talking out my ass in a way because I don't know the situation like you do. And obviously, it's really easy to just like pop ideas when you're not in the situation.
Yeah. Here's how to fix all your clients' problems.
Yeah, of course,
next.
of course. So that's obviously in play. Like, I'm sure this, this sounds like a, tough, like I said.
No, thanks everyone for all your input. It's been it's always useful to see someone else's insight on things.
Yeah, definitely. It sometimes like spurs up some other stuff that was in your head, but just like hasn't come up in your head for a while, and then like comes back. Yeah.
Definitely. No, cheers, guys. I'm conscious I've used up quite a lot of the group time now. So is anyone else got any questions?
This is what it's about.
Yeah, and also I appreciate you guys always letting me give my input as a complete inexperienced trainer. Like, here's my 2 cents for whatever they're worth.
But yeah, I mean, people, the blind leading the blind problem is only a problem, not saying that's you, but like, I'll finish. The blind leading the blind problem is only a problem if the blind person doesn't say that they're blind. So you're always like, look, I'm a new trainer. I've got experience, but I'm a new trainer. Here's my 2 cents. You're not like, I am the queen. Listen to me. This is it. This is how it is. So I think as long as we preface stuff, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
Also,
for
the record, I've only been training since October. I've only been working as a trainer since October.
Oh wow, awesome.
I've been lifting for about 5-6 years, so I guess there's a lot of knowledge there that's built up. But in terms of actual client interaction, client facing, actually relatively short.
Nice.
We've all been there too. We've all been in your guys' position, so we know. I mean, where were you guys when I was first becoming a trainer? Because I did not have the knowledge you guys have. I feel like I started out a lot dumber and more like, ooh, bodybuilder, because that's all I did. So this is nice. This is really nice to get a different perspective.
Yeah.
And also, like, I really appreciate your perspective just as the correctional exercise specialist, because that's an intense certification to get. So yeah, kudos to you. That's really valuable.
Yeah, and I'm going to meet you there. I'm going to do that once it's. I don't want to do it just online, but once it's in real life, I'm gonna get that.
Yeah, if you want some notes, I've got 18 pages of 8-point font.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read the book fully, but I've downloaded the book and I've got the the question and answer book. And yeah, this is some heavy stuff. You need to know your anatomy for that like really well, like better than I know my anatomy at the moment.
So, speaking of just certifications and continuing education, I've heard this from multiple sources over the last couple of weeks, that if you want guaranteed income as a trainer for the next 10, 20 years, you have to get special education or special certifications for training the elderly or aging populations. Because I don't know how it is in the UK, Freddie and Ollie, but I know for Jake and I in the US, we're coming up into a situation where what did it say?
Aging population.
Yeah, aging population where it's going to be the population is going to be skewed. So where there's going to be a disproportionate amount of people over the age of 50 and 60 and less people under that age.
It's the same here. Yeah.
Okay. Because I mean, and I didn't realize this. So previously, you know, it's been more balanced, you know, but we're coming into an era where we're going to have a significant part of the population that will be over the age of 50, and they're going to have their own specific fitness needs. And so somebody who I follow, I think on TikTok, because I'm one of those weirdos, I downloaded TikTok because we couldn't leave the house. So, but yeah, she makes a decent amount of money as a trainer, according to her. And she said that training older populations is where the money's at and where the money will be in the future. So what have you guys heard about that?
So I'm pretty sure in the UK, you don't need you probably should, and you should have insurance as well. You don't actually need a specific other certificate for this. I think it's just a benefit to do it. So for example, I'm hoping it's on, when is it? Tuesday, I'm doing a taster class for an elderly care home. I'm hoping it goes well. That'll be awesome. But point being, I just need to be insured, and I need to have my like level 2 and 3, like my PT thing. And it was the same in physio. I didn't have, in fact, I don't think, like, to be a physio rehab assistant, I'm not sure. Yeah, I didn't have any specific things to do with the elderly. I'm sure there are qualifications, but I don't think they're legally required. Do you think they're legally required in US, or they will be? Or it's just, I guess it's just beneficial.
I think it's
beneficial.
Right. Yeah, just sort of like how you don't need a special certification, like to train, let's say, like pregnant women or, you know, newly postnatal women.
Yeah.
Having special training in that is going to help you serve that population better. I think that this trainer on TikTok that was just suggesting, like, if you would like to train that population more efficiently, seeking out some more education. Because I think in my NASM textbook, there were like 2 pages, you know, about the specific needs of training the elderly population, and that was it. I mean, maybe in your corrective exercise specialist course, Jake, there was more, or what was there any more in that?
It's more important as you age, because the longer you have bad posture and form, the harder it is to correct. It's just good stuff to know, especially with people who are more likely going to have those muscle deficiencies or imbalances.
That makes sense.
I was looking at my client list, and 10 of the 18 right now are above the age of 45. So it's definitely like prominent elderly. It might be where I live, but
I wonder, this is a bit cynical, I wonder what sort of stuff they would teach in that course, because even in these elderly populations, a lot of even the people over 70, like, are actually, you know, quite active. And actually, I'm not sure what would they teach you? Like specific red flags? Because in terms of like exercise regressions, I've got exercise like regressions that like anybody could do. And you can kind of just use your brain to think them up, because you need these regressions for like really overweight people, for example, anyway. So I'd be interested to know what the content of the course is. Like, I'd love to see their like unit breakdown, you know, their like the chapter breakdown on it. Should probably read a book on it, to be honest.
Yeah, honestly, same here, Freddie. I would love to know specifically what I learn. I haven't had a chance to do research on it, but because I am sort of thinking, like, you know, now that I'm just, you know, plain baseline certified, like, what's next? And of course, what's next is like train clients, get experience, but just, you know, when I'm ready for that next step, like, you know, where do I go next? Do I get corrective exercise specialist like Jake? I mean, that seems beneficial no matter what, but in terms of like trying to make this a career, because actually, you know what? If you guys are comfortable talking about money, you don't have to tell me exactly what you earn, but like, what's the average like salary for a full-time trainer in the UK?
I mean, I think that would be impossible to answer, especially for somebody in my position. Like, I don't earn that much at the moment because I don't need to at the moment. I don't have that many clients. But in terms of, I mean, it would just vary so much, because there's some people who've got full diary and they're somehow charging like 200 quid and £200 or, you know, dollars an hour. And so they'll just be making like 6 figures easily. And then there's people like me who would be making a reasonable income if my diary's full, but as it stands, not making that much. So I'm not sure what that, I think the average must be like, I think the average is like 25,000 or something, but I don't know where they get that figure from. I don't know who they would count. You know, it's not like I've answered a like survey about that or anything. Maybe Ali, maybe you'd have a more useful answer.
Well, I'm not sure I know a huge amount more about it. I agree with you. This is really difficult to tell, and especially got the London weighting. So yeah, central London's a completely different picture to everywhere else. I would say as well, the complexity there is that it includes people who are self-employed in their own businesses, but also people working for like Virgin Health or something, or Pure Gym, where you're being paid a pittance. You're almost like you're on like a bartender wage, or petrol station attendant, gas station attendant. It's because you're working for their dream rather than for your thing. So it's really difficult to answer.
So you've got like the job security and the consistency, but you don't actually get a large cut of what the customer is paying into the system. In terms of like useful courses to do, my cynical and depressing answer is probably marketing courses will probably get you a lot more income than being a quality trainer. So I think there's a balance there. And I actually find, as much as people like to talk about, like sleazy salesmen, I actually think for most trainers, I'd include myself in this, I think probably like basically every trainer I know actually needs to stop thinking that their service isn't good enough and actually needs to market more. Like improve both, of course, improve both. But there's some people who they're just like, I don't have any clients. It must be because I'm not good enough. And it's like, no, it's because you're marketing. You have no reach. You have no offer. You have none of this marketing stuff down. So yeah, the cynic in me would say marketing courses probably be really useful for income. Yeah, and like I said before, I really don't mean that as like, it's one or the other, because it's definitely not. But I do see people neglecting that more, and then they start thinking it's that their product quality isn't high enough, and they start thinking, how do I get my product quality higher? And actually, a lot of it's marketing, especially if you include stuff like social proof in the marketing. Like if you're a trainer who doesn't have many clients, and then a new prospective client sees that you have no clients, you give them the exact same session as if they've just seen you be swarmed by 100 clients, and they'll view it in a different way. So I'd even count that in marketing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you always market yourself as you have limited availability.
Yeah. Well, it's tough, isn't it? Because I try and go by the like be authentic thing, but then it's like, actually it would be better for me and for you if you just like think that most people are paying me £7,000 an hour and you're getting like a deal. Like, do you know what I mean? It actually would be beneficial for both parties. But then I'm just too scared of being lying.
Right.
Not that you have to lie, but yeah.
No. Well, in fact, my first client this morning, my client consult, she drove up in a Tesla.
Nice.
She drove up to my gym in a Tesla. And again, honestly, I didn't go in. First of all, I was just scared because it was my first ever like consult. I wasn't worried about the sales thing, but as soon as I saw her drive up in a Tesla, my first thought was money's not going to be the issue. Like if she doesn't buy a package with me, it'll be because she doesn't like me or she doesn't like the gym. It's not going to be because she doesn't have the money.
And it might be a money issue, but it might be that you didn't charge enough. And I mean that seriously. Some people see a low price and they go, this won't solve my problem because it's so cheap.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's that some people, they're wealthy. They want to pay that luxury tax, to make it feels luxury to them if they pay more.
Yeah. And they want to feel like they've put effort in and they've done a £50 workout, not a £20 workout, if that makes sense. As in pound, not pound being the currency.
Right. Yeah.
Do you want to be confident in what you're doing too? Because that plays a big part in keeping a client. So learning as much as you can, as often as you can. You'll eventually gain expertise with just experience, and you'll get other certifications and you'll learn by practice. But the more you practice, the more strong-headed you are towards something, the quicker you're going to get there.
Great.
So go ham. Ask all the questions. Ask us questions. Try to do as many mock consultations, trainings as you can, because the more that you're involved with it, the more it stays in your head and the more confident you are just doing it.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong. I mean, there's nothing wrong with not knowing some things early in the career. You know, there's still tons and tons of stuff I don't know, and I'd still consider myself early enough in my career. Like I haven't, you know, it's been what, 5 years or something like that. But point being, like especially when you're new, nobody is going to judge you for not knowing stuff. In fact, they're only going to judge you positively for not being hard-headed. Like one of the worst traits about PTs in England, probably Ali's seen this, is that they're so hard-headed, and it's PTs who don't know anything will be absolutely certain on just random shit they just read on the internet. And it's really annoying. It's really annoying to deal with. So I think just like being humble, especially like for me now, sometimes I get the thing where I'm like a bit embarrassed I don't know something, but it's like, and even for me that's stupid, but especially right at the beginning, just like Jake's saying, just learn, and be vulnerable about stuff you don't know, because it's early days, and then in 10 years you'll be absolutely killing it. Whereas if you're not vulnerable now, in 10 years you'll just be the same.
Right. No, thank you for that. Honestly, I feel like my biggest insecurity about being in a training session is like knowing how to work around like injuries or, you know, like, cause off the top of, I mean, if you gave me a minute to think about it, I could like, you know, but if on the spot, you know, someone's like, my right knee is busted. So, you know, so build me a workout around that now. And it's like, oh, okay, well, let me think, you know, like, off, you know, because I walked into these 2 client consults today. I knew nothing about these clients. Like my boss booked it for me. I didn't know what I was walking into. I didn't know how old they were. I didn't know why they wanted a trainer. You know, I was going in cold. So I'm like, I was just stressing last night going like, well, how the hell, like if I'm going to do a demo workout, what if they come in and they've got like 50 injuries and I have to come up with something off the top of my head? Like, what am I going to do? Luckily I lucked out, and one didn't have any injuries or limitations. And then my older client just had minor stuff and it didn't hurt. It was just, she just had limited range of motion, like in one ankle. And it wasn't a big deal, but I feel like that's what it's thinking on the fly, like, you know, or in a group class setting, you know, where you're managing 12 people, you know, and then one person says like, oh, my shoulder is kind of today, and then each station in the class you have to be like, okay, your shoulder hurts, well, let's modify it like this. Okay, well, you can't do this exercise, then let's switch you to do that instead. Like,
so for these specific situations, actually it's not not in your remit to be dealing with people who've got like heavy injuries, like and PTs do, and they flirt around with danger on this, but it's for any PT. Actually, it's not your job to be like, so for example, where I'm going with this, actually they should be cleared, for example, by their doctor. So I've had people where I've said, okay, well, have you been cleared by somebody to exercise? And they'll say, no, I haven't. And I'll say, okay, like you should get cleared for exercising. And it's really annoying to do that, especially when I've worked with people with what they've got in physio. But it's out of my, like, you know, I will have to say, okay, are you at least booked in with the physiotherapist? Are you seeing a GP for this? Because actually it is outside of our kind of area, unless you've got extra qualifications. So don't be afraid to be like, I know it's annoying if you've got a prospective client coming, but to say, actually, have you been cleared for this? What have you been cleared for? Like, and asking questions like that, and not being afraid to actually turn people down, because that's not your job isn't to rehab.
Freddie's absolutely right, and there's an awful lot of PTs who think they're physios because they follow a couple of physios on Instagram, and it's like, all right, I'll help you with your catastrophic ankle breakdown. It's like, really don't think you should be.
Yeah, and it's asking for trouble, because it's actually against the law, must be, or at least be suable.
You certainly wouldn't be insured if something did go horribly wrong.
Because I think you should even be having a form that says, basically, you should have a PAR-Q form and like an informed consent form that basically says that when they tick all the boxes saying they don't have any of these problems, like high blood pressure and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, oh, I was just going to say that's why I thought more today about getting the certified or the corrective exercise specialist, you know, what you have, Jake, because like my client who's 63, she said she has a hole because her left ankle was busted a couple of years ago. She went to PT for it. it's better. It's just stiff. And so because of that, she has imbalances on her right side. She knows she does. It's not pathological. It's just annoying. It just needs to be stretched out. So she said she has been cleared. Everything's fine. She has stiffness and soreness more on her right side and her right hip, you know. And so I'm just like, well, you know, luckily today's workout was just a demo, but in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to do some research about this before I start programming for her.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the right approach. It's to realize, oh yeah, I've got a gap here, so I better go home and learn some more. So you got exactly the right approach to it. And as Freddie said before, like, yeah, you gotta, I'm just speaking from experience, having been very recently through this, so like, yeah, you got to be easy on yourself and realize you're not expected to know everything yet. And a lot of this, it comes with experience. It comes with just doing a lot of sessions with a lot of different kind of clients. And yeah, and you said it yourself, like where you'd be able to do it to figure out these things in like a minute or two if you had to pause, and it's the anxiety of like, oh, I've got to work it out on the fly because someone's come into me and they said, oh, you know, I bus clipped me and my shoulder's gone weird or something. But it all becomes easier over time to keep a cooler head and go, right, okay, I've had a client who had a similar thing before and this worked for them.
Yeah, I would back up the corrective exercise specialist pretty heavily. It changed my mind about a lot of training techniques, and it gave me a lot of insight into how to be a confident trainer. Just knowing, okay, this doesn't feel good, this doesn't look right. Now I have the experience to know why. Because I hated that. I hated being like, I don't know why your form looks messed up. And I can't tell them that, but yeah, it takes a long time to learn. A lot of it is, I tried to send a picture of just like the contents. It takes a lot of having someone to practice with who has certain imbalances. But I'm sure that some of us do, and I definitely have some. So if you ever want to, or you have questions when you get to that point of like, hey, what do you do for this? Then yeah, go ahead.
Nice. Yeah, I should ask you some about upper body, well, and hips really, but maybe another time. But I'm really looking forward to doing the course. In terms of another random little tidbit in physio, what I would find out rehabbing people is that generally, I don't want to get you in trouble here, so pretend I didn't say this, but generally in most cases, if they don't have like a real acute issue, in most cases, slow graded progression of like strength training exercises, you know, body weight stuff, is almost exclusively a positive thing. Like it's almost exclusively positive. So just as long as you don't overdo it, you should be fine. But again, I guess actually this is kind of bullshit, because if you shouldn't be dealing with them, then you shouldn't be dealing with them. But what I would say is, as long as it's nice, easy exercises, progressions, like human body is designed to move. Chances are they're walking around moving. Chances are they're getting up from a chair. Chances are they're doing all these things. So doing, you know, sit to stands or something, there was very rarely a person where somebody would be like, they can't do, you know, sit to stands, unless it was an acute injury. But the problem that I find is that you need to really drill people if you're gonna go down this road. So if you know somebody quite well and you're like, look, I'm not a physio, but you know, this is what I do know. You need to really go down the road of like, it could get worse like tomorrow. So a client at the moment who I've got has like ankle like an ankle issue, and we go through exercises like just getting the ankle moving under tension in all the different ways, like eversion, inversion, you know, plantar, dorsiflexion, just using a TheraBand and doing some heel raises, like calf raises. But I've been very careful to say, look, we can go through this stuff and it's almost always net positive, but you need to be prepared that if tomorrow it's worse, that you're not going to freak out and that you're totally okay with that and that you understand like what's going on here. Because a lot of this stuff, if they've got like a back tweak and you take them for a walk and then the next day the back tweak's worse, you don't want them blaming you.
Or never going for a walk again in their life.
Well, if they never go for a walk again in their life, then their back is going to get really bad.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. But if they do like a sit to stand with you and their back gets worse tomorrow, you need to really drill them on the fact that could happen, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And tied in with that is reminding clients that like the road to recovery from injuries. And obviously this is outside the context of acute injury where you shouldn't be working with them, as you pointed out. But the road to recovery is often, it's like the road to weight loss or the road to muscle gain, the road to anything. It's like, it's gonna be like that.
Yeah.
And occasionally you're gonna have setbacks. You're gonna have that day where you step off the curb wrong and you throw your back out like, oh no, the last 5 years of work's down the drain. But you're definitely making those clients aware that those kind of things are going to happen before they happen is useful. So they're sort of psychologically and emotionally prepared for the fact that there are going to be setbacks.
And things can get worse before they get better.
Throw it all out.
Yeah, for sure.
And some, I'd say, as you said, with like doing specific exercises for like an ankle recovery, that it's useful to tell them that it may be sore tomorrow as a result of what we've done today, and that's okay. It shouldn't be sore for the next week. If it's sore for the next week, then that's different, then we got an issue. If it's only sore for a day or so, that's normal, that's part of the recovery, don't be worried.
Yeah, for sure.
No, this is all great. In fact, no, I just realized how lucky I am that this client who's 63, she's also very active. She does yoga twice a week. She walks every day. So she's been through, physical rehab, for her ankle. She's very aware of her body. So she was very open with me about like her limitations and, whereas I feel like probably in the future, not everyone's going to be that aware. So I'm going to be, because some of the moves I did today, I tried to say like, oh, it's like this in yoga, because she says she's been doing yoga for years now. So I'm like, oh, it'll be similar to when you do this in yoga. Like when you do this in yoga, is there any pain? Are you able to do that? And she's like, no, it's fine. And I'm like, great. Okay, then let's try this, So yeah, I think I'm lucky with that. Actually, I have a random question, I guess, probably before we wrap up, because I think I'm going to take my kids on a walk. It's really nice out today. Totally random question, but yeah, I know Freddie wanted to talk about deadlifts for a second. And my apologies if this is a silly question. So I find the heavier I lift the barbell, my grip like gets loose. Like it's almost like my hands are sweaty. Is that when you need chalk or do you need gloves? Or does it?
How are you gripping the bar?
Oh, overhand.
Double overhand. Have you tried mixed grip? What do you think about mixed grip?
I haven't tried mixed grip yet. I mean, it doesn't actually slip out of my hands, but I noticed that it's starting like
it's the bottleneck.
Oh, okay.
No. So is that what you meant? It's the bottleneck. Like it's the thing that's failing first.
Yeah.
It's the hardest bit.
Yeah. Like I'm feeling like, oh no, like I'm going to drop it because my hands are slippery or my hands aren't stable on the bar.
I'd prefer chalk before gloves any day. I think gloves interfere with your ability to sort of connect with the bar and get a really good grip. Whereas chalk definitely reduces the sweat. I've got a client who's a climber, and so using chalk to improve grip's just natural for him. And that's also for him, it's part of the prep process for climbing. He chalks up, it's like part of the routine. So for him, chalking up before he deadlifts makes perfect sense. It gets him into the zone. So I'd say try chalk first. Personally, I've tried mixed grip, like Freddie said. I don't particularly like it personally. I don't like the way it sort of you feel asymmetrical on it, but that's just me and my preference.
So I do mixed grip, and then every set I'd switch around. So I will definitely like reiterate mixed grip. If you try it, like fair enough. Ali doesn't like it. Mixed grip will make you so much stronger. Like it will make your grip so much stronger, like double, like, well, I don't, maybe not double, but basically if I'm doing Romanian deadlift, I do double overhand and I will struggle holding 100 kilos, like for, more than 5 reps. But if I'm doing like this, it just takes it completely out of the equation. So if I'm doing like 4 sets of deadlift, let's say, which is way too many, but I do that. I'll do it like this and then I'll do it like this. And it just means that all of the force that's trying to like unwrap your fingers, on the other hand, you're like stopping it. So I definitely recommend giving it a try, because especially for me as well, a chalk it's just annoying. but I do respect the chalk shout.
And public gyms won't like you using chalk most of the time as well. I forgot to add that in. Yeah, because it does create a bit of a mess, and it's kind of hard to get out of the knurling.
Yeah.
One more thing I'd actually add on to grip type, and I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that I do this. How are you sort of getting the bar in your hand? Because there's you sort of instinctively, a lot of people you put the bar there, curl your hand around, and the problem then is that as soon as you pull, it's going to slip over your calluses. So it's much easier to grip if the bar's sort of right nestled in the base of your fingers, and then you wrap around your grip.
Yeah, so yeah, just physically changing your grip. Like
making sure that because if the bar slips in your hand, first of all, that's going to be much harder to continue gripping it.
Yeah, it's like once like the once it's moved a little bit, like it's you're in trouble. I thought at first you were going to talk about the hook grip. So there's a random thing that you might not want to do this. You almost definitely won't want to do this, but just while we're on it, grip. So people who want to be really strong, instead of gripping like this, they put their thumb like that, and then they go hands over the top of the thumb. And it does work. It does make you load stronger, but it does feel like your thumb is about to freaking rip off.
Yeah, it's a powerlifting little trick, isn't it? I've heard it used. I've never used it because it's always described as being incredibly painful.
Yeah, yeah. I'm big on the mixed grip, but it sounds like these guys are big on the chalk. So I tried both.
Liquid chalk.
What was that, Jake?
Have you ever tried liquid chalk?
Yeah. So I've tried liquid chalk as well. But I've it's not like I've ever done this for an extended period, but just when I've been lifting with other people, they've been like, hey, look at use this chalk, use this lifting chalk. Yeah. Liquid chalk.
Yeah, I'd agree with Freddie. You could probably lift another third of the weight that you're lifting currently just by changing to mixed grip. So try it out, but don't just do it on one side. Do it on both sides.
Yeah. Do it on both sides. But that
one's gonna feel really comfortable. The other's not, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, and I know Ali's like, I had that instinct as well when I first was doing it. I was like, oh, I don't like that this is lopsided. But really, if you're switching each time, and it's like most of the it's not like you're doing a bicep curl and one's like that and one's like that. It's like, most of the force does still get translated in, because your arms should be like, pretty like relaxed isn't the word, but they should be like locked out at the elbow and stuff like that. So it's still pretty symmetrical, even though it doesn't look like it. And then just switch. Yeah, that's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, I mean, switching will be fine. You're unlikely to develop balances, and you're pretty unlikely to injure yourself if you're not going anywhere near sort of competition powerlifting meet kinds of levels.
Yeah, mixed grip.
Yeah, I suppose for me personally, it's not like, because I climb as well, so the grip's never the thing that fails for me first on deadlifts. It's not something I particularly had to think about.
Yeah. And you're probably used to using chalk for climbing, because you can't use mixed grip on the climbing wall.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you have to.
Yeah, well, I guess actually, that's a point.
One exercise I've actually used in recent weeks with someone I was trying to improve grip strength on, just remembered, is doing like a plate pinch farmer's carry. So getting just your 45-pound plate, barbell plate, and just pinching on the sort of the wherever is hardest to grip on it, the smoothest, most featureless part of the plate, getting them to just do an overhand pinch and then walk in lengths. I got huge improvement over just like 4 sessions doing that with a client once a week. That
must be perfect for crimp. I think it's called crimping in climbing, where you have to grip like this as well. That must be really good for training that.
Yeah. I mean, it's any grip training. It's just like sort of make it hard to grip. Make it unpleasant, make it uncomfortable. Have you ever used those fat grips that you get?
Just to make the bar thicker?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
don't know if they're common where you are, but they're like a plastic sort of sheath, I guess. You can just slot over the bar, and it just makes the grip wider, which is invariably harder. So it sort of puts you in a worse biomechanical position. So they're good. I use them for like for pull-ups or for deadlifts, remaining deadlifts, something like that.
You ever use them for a bench press?
I haven't. No.
They're wonderful.
Yeah.
Like, because usually you put so much pressure right here, like the amount of weight that pushes right there will sometimes hurt into my wrist. I don't know if you've ever had that.
Yeah.
But with those, having like a larger surface area feels a lot better. So I haven't done it a lot.
Interesting.
But I have the opportunity. Yeah, give it a try.
Yeah, I don't actually have some here, but that's I'll try that, because I'm getting that at the moment. Especially, I'm trying to change my bench press form. So instead of the bar being here, the bar's like here, if that makes sense. So I can get a bit more like torque. But it's hurting when I'm at my like max weight. It's hurting.
Right.
Do you sort of internally rotate your shoulders a little bit, or you're going the other way?
It's so that I can like bend the bar more. If that makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
So it's instead of it being here, it's like here. It's probably really hard to translate over, but apparently it just makes you a fair bit stronger, or like, you know, a fair bit being like 5%.